that have happened around both the DMV as well as nationally during the week of sports and beyond. We might be getting into more beyond, and we could even see a situation in which we move to a little more frequently than Saturday mornings only. But right now, right here on Saturday morning, 10:30 a.m., this is your time for us to get into it. Now, of course, we got to start today's conversation, this week's conversation, with last week as we hit that throwback to the Philadelphia Eagles not only winning the Super Bowl, but straight mollywhopping in the Super Bowl, taking it over, getting it done, sending the Kansas City Chiefs home. Some asked the question, did it tarnish the legacy of the Kansas City Chiefs? Did it dim the star of one Patrick Mahomes out there? I think that it did a little bit of both. I don't think that it tarnished the legacy of the Chiefs. I do think that it changed the conversation in regards to both this Kansas City Chiefs, what was potentially, they were moving towards a dynasty, had a chance to become the first team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. That didn't happen. Had Patrick Mahomes, I think that his player comp going into that game was one Michael Jeffrey Jordan in regards to outstanding athletes regardless of the sport. But I think that that gets tarnished when you not only lose, but you get defeated the way that they did in a Super Bowl. So those things, though not tarnished, certainly the conversation changes. But this is Loud AF, and even though we are a national platform that you can see right here on Fox Local, we're going to boil this down and talk about the DMV. What did that game mean to the DMV? Of course, you know, the Philadelphia Eagles, you're a Washington Commanders fan, we got to play this team at least 2 times a year. Look at seasons like this, maybe even 3 times, and that might become something that becomes even more prevalent. So how did this go, right? We know that the Philadelphia Eagles also, at the end of the day, made light work of the Washington Commanders in that NFC Championship game. However, if you look at it, the Commanders were fully in that game all the way up through 3 quarters, headed into that 4th quarter, and this is no shade whatsoever, but despite the first 2 turnovers, if it's not for that 3rd turnover, you think about it. Commanders get the ball back, I think trailing by 11 points at that point in time, right around the 50-yard line. We're midway through the 3rd quarter. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders are going to go down and score on that drive. We're talking about ifs. I know. If life was an if and if was a fifth, I know all of those things. But if Jaden Daniels takes that ball, drives the Washington Commanders down, and gets points, especially if it's 7. We're going into the 4th quarter in a 1-score game. Everybody knows that that's where the magic happens for the Washington Commanders all season long. I think the Commanders win that game. Obviously, that's not what happens. Again, no shade here, but Austin Eckler fumbles the ball. The Eagles get it back. I think at that 3rd turnover, I think at that point in time when the Eagles went down and scored, it took that life out of the room. It took that air out of the Commanders' stride there, and it lit the link on fire. The Eagles then swarm, and they absolutely, to be frank here, blow us out of that ball game. But I say all of that to say that the Washington Commanders knocked off the Eagles once, took them into the 4th quarter twice. This Commanders team, as great as the Philadelphia Eagles are, and we're not going to play this game about, well, the Washington Commanders could have beat the Chiefs this day. Well, the Commanders, they probably could. We're not going to do all that. We're not going to do all that. We'll save that for somebody else. Just for us. Played the Eagles 3 times, beat them once, took them into the 4th quarter on 2 different occasions. This Commanders team, though the Eagles are at a different level than everybody right now, this Commanders team is not far off. And that takes us into where we are right now, which is an offseason. And when you look at this Washington Commanders team, this Washington Commanders franchise, you have to be thrilled, ecstatic. This team was ahead of schedule. This team shocked the world. And usually when you say shock the world, that's hyperbolic, right? Like that's this big hyperbole. But in this situation, team probably shocked a majority of the sports world. 4 wins the previous season, NFC Championship game. That is one heck of a turnabout. And now headed into this season with To call Jaden Daniels a franchise quarterback is to be disrespectful to everything that this young man is and what he means not only to this team, this organization, but the entire damn DMV community. So more than a franchise quarterback, you are looking at a building block for the next 10, 15 years in JD5 right there. So you've got him. You've got Dan Quinn, a proven winner now. Now DQ, because I think the conversation coming in, and look, go back, check my receipts. Because when Dan Quinn got hired, a lot of people out there wanted Bobby Johnson. They wanted Slowick from Houston. They wanted these offensive gurus here. And I said, look, you got to give Dan Quinn a chance. Everybody's talking about Dan Quinn, and they're talking about the fact that his Atlanta Falcons blew Super Bowl lead to the New England Patriots, and they lost that Super Bowl. Sure, that happened. We got to talk about the fact that Dan Quinn got the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl and had Bill Belichick on the ropes in that Super Bowl before the Patriots ultimately came back and won. And so now what Dan Quinn did this year with this group of individuals, now those are the conversations that are starting to be had about your head coach. You got an Adam Peters who learned under the best of the best of the best in terms of roster constructing and building teams. Right before coming here, he was out there in San Francisco, who had, for years, had arguably the best roster there. So you've got him. You've got all of these architects in play who went out and they got it done a year ahead of schedule. So what's now? Now you look at this team coming into this offseason with those fundamental building blocks in place, and this is a team that has the third highest amount available in salary cap in the NFL. They got the third highest dollar amount ready to spend on the right free agents in the NFL coming into this offseason with all of the building blocks in place. And when we have heard the rumors, we have heard the assumptions that free agents around the NFL are saying, hey, at nation's capital, that Washington, D.C., at Washington Commanders franchise, because of all of these things, all of these pieces, this is a place that I would like to play. That's what we're looking at here. So you look at this team that already was not far away, and now with the ability to add to this team. Woo! If you're a Washington Commanders fan, if you've been waiting for this franchise for some 20, 30 years to get back to the glory days, if you've loved this team your whole entire life, it's time to get excited out there. Yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are sitting on top of the hill, but if anybody is going to challenge them, I'm telling you that the Washington Commanders are in place to do just that. So before you can spend money necessarily out there in free agency, we got to take a look at some of the individuals that we have to make decisions on in terms of whether to re-sign them or whether to let them go. I think that the number one person on this list has got to be all-pro linebacker Bobby Wagner. What do you do with Bobby Wagner? Some individuals out there, especially before he came to Washington, they said, well, Bobby Wagner's best days are behind him. Well, Bobby Wagner, he can still play, but he's getting a little long in the tooth out there, which is always funny to me, especially right now. I'm at the ripe old age of 43, so you look at somebody like Bobby Wagner. That man is some 10 years younger than me. Talking about he's older than two. That man is just getting started out there. So I'm kind of tipping my hat here when we start with a Bobby Wagner. Do you bring back a Bobby Wagner? Absolutely. You absolutely bring back a Bobby Wagner. Not only did Bobby Wagner give you, I believe, 133 tackles out there, not only did he give you 2 sacks, forced fumble, recovered fumble out there, but Bobby Wagner is the foundation of this team. When you want to go left hand up, raise hell, right hand, hell yeah, all of the above. When you go to a locker room guy like a Bobby Wagner, I don't want to get, too deep into the weeds here, but you look at some of the other teams with their outstanding defenses, with their outstanding style of play out there. Look back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a defense that was built there. Yeah, people talk about Warren Sapp, but Derrick Brooks, that locker room guy who held it all together. You go back to those Baltimore Ravens, some of the best defenses that were ever constructed. Yeah, you talk about T. Suggs. Yeah, you talk about Reed on the back end, and there's no disrespect to those individuals who are Hall of Famers, but you look at number 5'2" in the middle. You look at that Ray Lewis, because there's something about that middle linebacker position on a defense. And when you speak about Bobby Wagner, the Legion of Boom with the Seattle Seahawks, we talk about those defenders on the back line, Richard Sherman, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that middle linebacker. They call that middle linebacker the quarterback of the defense because it is that middle linebacker who gets everybody in place, gets everybody in position, gets everybody on the same page so that they can all get it done. So Bobby Wagner, is he maybe on the back nine of his career? Maybe. Maybe he is. Is Bobby Wagner the player that he was 10 years ago? I don't think that any of us are the player that we were 10 years ago. For some of us, including myself, that's a good thing that I'm not the player I was 10 years ago. You can catch that one on your way home. But with the Bobby Wagner, you're looking at a man who's not only going to give you productivity, but he's also going to be the leader of that locker room that is going to continue to help this whole entire thing build and everything move in the right direction. That's not even to mention the relationship that we believe that he has with JD5 as well, both of them being West Coast young men out there. So do you bring back Bobby Wagner? You absolutely do. Now, if you bring back a Bobby Wagner, of course, there's an opportunity that there's some individuals that you might lose. Do you lose a John Allen if you bring back a Bobby Wagner? And we're not going to put the two of them together like you can't have both, etc. But is there a chance that you lose a Jonathan Allen? There is a chance of that. And, of course, Jonathan Allen, homegrown product, went to Stonebridge out there. He's a Bulldog. Shout out Coach Mickey Thompson out there. John Allen from right here in the DMV played his entire career with the Washington Commanders. We always talk about Terry McLaurin for great reasons, for being an individual who is a bridge for this team from the depths of which it had fallen to now climbing back up. John Allen is another one of those individuals. John Allen was helping to do his daggone best to keep this whole organization afloat when it was down low because he cares and by all accounts loves this team. So is it heartbreaking, the idea that John Allen may not continue in a Washington Commanders jersey? It is heartbreaking, but at the end of the day, and I'm sure that John Allen knows this better than I do or anybody else talking about the game, this is a business. So will John Allen make his return here? That is yet to see. We know that he was injured. He tore that pec. Young man worked hard to get back from that torn pec, to be able to come back and to help this team get to where it is that it got towards the end of the season. But when you look at it, John Allen, he could be a salary cap casualty out there. So yet to see on that. You look at a couple of wide receivers who did great for this team, did absolutely phenomenal for this team. At the beginning of the season, the question was, well, who's going to be the number 2 wide receiver here, especially after Jahan Dotson was dealt to the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, who's going to be number 2? We saw Noah Brown come in and step in. Noah Brown was absolutely phenomenal. Not only does he catch that Hail Mary, but he is a consistent blocker in the run game, getting it done, whatever is necessary downfield, making key catches. Noah Brown, will he be back? You look at a Dyami Brown. Dyami Brown coming into this season here. There are a lot of people who are throwing that B word around about Dyami Brown. That B word, of course, being bust. Is Dyami Brown a bust? Will he ever pick up to what it is that he was able to, the promise that he showed out there in North Carolina? Well, you know what? This year, we saw flashes of who and what Dyami Brown could be. We saw flashes of Dyami Brown getting deep. We saw flashes of Dyami Brown making plays once the ball was in his hand. We saw some of the best of Dyami Brown and who he may still develop into. I can't say this enough, bro. Young men are still developing. Look at it, Dyami Brown has been in the league a few years. Man, that man is not 30 yet. And for any of us out there that are watching this right now that are over the age of 30, you know that a lot of times you don't even figure out life until you hit 30 years old. So Dyami Brown, there's still a lot of great football in him. And I think that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, especially if he's in the right system with the right play callers like a Cliff Kingsbury. You look at OZ out there, Olamide Zaccheaus, who had played down there with the Atlanta Falcons. He's a Dan Quinn guy, and people have been waiting for him to manifest and to become everything that it was that he did again this year. Zaccheaus showed flashes. OZ showed flashes out there to get it done. So when you look at those two individuals in particular, and you know what, let's go ahead and throw in Zach Ertz as well. Zach Ertz, second on the team in catches and receiving yards, getting it done, red zone, team leader, team captain, Captain America out there in Zach Ertz as well. We'll focus on that wide receiver position. When you've got that cap money, when you've got a quarterback like Jaden Daniels out there, this is going to be a position, with zero disrespect to those young men, this is going to be a position in which it will be upgraded. Because you've got a Terry McLaurin, and you've got Terry being scary, play in and play out everywhere out there on the field. This is a position, wide receiver 2, potentially even wide receiver 3, and we know that Luke McCaffrey is coming. Luke McCaffrey is coming. He's just now learning how to play wide receiver. Once he learns fully how to transition from quarterback into wide receiver, McCaffrey is going to be a weapon out there. Best believe on that right there. But this is a position in which certainly a wide receiver 2, potentially a wide receiver 3, in which we could see, I don't want to call it an upgrade, but additions to the roster in terms of those positions. And that is likely going to be, albeit whether it is through free agency. Of course, the names like T. Higgins get thrown out there. You know, those big-time receivers' names get thrown out there. So whether it's free agency or whether it's in the draft, that wide receiver 2 or 3 is going to be added on to here. So do I believe that a Dyami Brown and an OZ will be back? I don't believe that both will be back. I do hope, because, you know, you get around the facility and you have an opportunity to see these guys, and, you know, a lot of the people around the country, you just see them on Sundays. Well, you see these guys work, man, and you see them, you start to see them beyond just individuals with a jersey number and a helmet on. You get to see the man and the individual that it is, and you wish the best for these young men. And when you get to be a little older, a little longer in your own tooth, you want to continue to be able to see their growth and development. So would I love to see Dyami Brown and OZ back? Love to see both of them back, but it's a business. So one or even both of them could be gone. What do you do if you're AP? If you got T. Higgins out there looking for money out there, you got other big-time wide receiver talents out there, I actually would prefer to not go the big-time wide receiver name. Why, Chad? Why do you not go the big-time wide receiver route? You don't go the big-time wide receiver route unless he's also the right kind of individual. One of the strengths of this Washington Commanders team, again, when we talk about a Bobby Wagner, we talk about a Zach Ertz, etc., and Austin Eckler, is the character and the guys in the locker room of this team. You are getting it done based off of the fact that these individuals understand, and Dan Quinn preached this all year long. This is not even just a 53-man locker room. This is 53 plus those individuals that are on the practice squad. It's 53 plus the individuals on the practice squad, plus the water boy, plus the coaches, plus the video staff. This is a true definition of a team, and trust me, I've been in locker rooms. Now, I didn't play the game particularly well, but I've been in locker rooms. I've played this game, and there's a difference between when you've got a collection of individuals and top talent guys who feel like they're above the team and other guys who kind of just fit in. And when you've got something like what's cooking right now in Washington, this is a collection of individuals with one common goal, one common cause, and that is to go out there and put on for the DMV and ultimately to bring days of not only competitiveness, but Super Bowls back to Washington, D.C. So you got to add the right individual. And I'm not saying that T. Higgins is not the right individual, because he very well may be. But whomever AP and DQ bring in here, they've got to be the right receiver, the right talent. We know that wide receivers have a tendency sometimes to get a little, little wide receiver-ish, get a little T.O. to them. A little Chad Johnson to him, and I love both of those guys, but I don't know that those are the types of guys that right now, at this area of Jaden Daniels' development, I don't know that those are the types of guys that you want to bring into this locker room. So what are your options? Well, first round of the draft, you got pick number 29. At this point in time in the college to professional game, you've got individuals who, from that collegiate level, come into the NFL and make immediate impacts. So much of that has to do with the way that the college game has changed. Right now, they're throwing the ball all around the field. Right now, if you're younger and you're watching, you're playing 7-on-7 year-round now. So receivers, DBs, they've got an opportunity to develop at a higher level than they may have before. One of the individuals that's potentially being looked at with that 29th pick is Emeka Egbuka. Excuse me if I got that wrong, coming out of Ohio State, big-time player. Again, if you can get a collegiate guy, you can get a guy from college who, again, has that character, and you can come in and say, this is Commanders football. And you can put one of those guys opposite of Scary Terry over there. Woo, boy. Man, JD5 in this squad is cooking. All right. And now that brings us to Zach Ertz, that tight end position. Zach Ertz, do you bring Zach Ertz back? Again, hell yeah. Hell yeah, you bring Zach Ertz back. Yes, you bring Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz back. Is there a chance that maybe Ben Sinnott starts cooking a little bit more? So Zach Ertz's his productivity is not as high next season as it was this past season as more tight ends start to develop? Sure, but Zach Ertz is a locker room kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that you want here to help Jaden, to help that tight end room, to help everybody in this team continue to move forward. And Zach Ertz is still putting up productivity. So you bring him back. Austin Eckler, I would love to see Austin Eckler back. There's a chance that doesn't happen just because, again, the way that the numbers go, the way that running back position goes. But I don't know that anybody could have known everything that Austin Eckler would bring to this team, whether he was on the field out there, not only being a third down back, sometimes being a first and second down back, returning kicks, all-pro, return man out there, even when he was off of the field due to injury. Still, again, a constant presence. So if you don't know what Austin Eckler meant to this team, you got to do your research on that. I'm telling you from firsthand knowledge of what it is that he meant. Will he be back, though? That running back position, it's a tough one. We're not sure. We know that you can fill that in the draft. You can fill that in other places. Where does this team have to focus with that third highest cap number? Offensive line. It's an offensive line that played really well this year, especially considering the fact that at the beginning of the season you thought that it was a hodgepodge of individuals. But you got these individuals who came in together and who played out of position, played multiple positions, and still got it done for this team, for Jaden Daniels. But even though you got by with it, you want to get better. Shout out to Bobby Johnson, Coach Bobby Johnson, who got a lot done out of this unit. But you're going to invest in that offensive line this offseason heavily. You're probably going to invest in that cornerback position because as great as Mikey Sainristil played, and Sainristil was outstanding, do you want Sainristil to be on the outside or do you want to move him back inside on that slot? That's going to be a question. Lattimore, I don't think, there's a lot of fans that are down on Lattimore. I don't think that's fair. Lattimore was dealing with a soft tissue injury. He was dealing with hamstring problems. If you've never been an athlete at all, you have no idea what it's like to deal with hamstring issues, to be traded mid-season and to constantly be trying to get back while playing against some of the best wide receivers in the world, trying to do that while attempting to get healthy at the same time. Lattimore is going to have an entire offseason to get his body right and to learn this system. I think Lattimore is going to have a great season. On that back end, Jeremy Chinn. What are you doing, Jeremy Chinn? I love Jeremy Chinn. Had an opportunity to meet Jeremy Chinn's mother one day before a game at Northwest Stadium. That young man comes from great stock. I believe in Jeremy Chinn. If you can make it happen, he is someone who can play that safety position, can come down in the box, cover tight end, stop the run as well. He's a playmaker. Bring Jeremy Chinn back. Again, this team has the fundamental, foundational pieces in place right now to make a run. You got to be looking at the Philadelphia Eagles because they're not only the Super Bowl champion, but you're going to play them 2 to 3 times a year. This team has the positions in place to get this done, and they have the money and the draft capital to add to it. If you're a Washington Commanders fan, feel happy because these bright days, I believe these bright days that they're here to stay. We'll have more on the Washington Commanders offseason. The Combine is just a couple of weeks away. We'll have another look at some of these potential draft picks. I'll definitely keep you informed on that. I'm going to the Combine. I'll fill you in on exactly how all of that goes. You'll be able to get that exclusively right here on Loud AF as we'll bring you all of that and more. I want to switch gears right now. Had an opportunity. You're watching this right now on a Saturday. You may be streaming it another day, but Friday, of course, was on Valentine's Day. I had an opportunity to go out to Prince George's County for an outstanding event with some seniors. I just wanted you to take a look at what was just a truly, truly, truly phenomenal experience. Here it is.
Better be us, right? When we get a little older.
Yes,
The Prince George's County Police Department holding their annual Love on Our Seniors celebration. Our Chad Ricardo was on site for those festivities.
We're here in Prince George's County with the wonderful ladies of Cameron Grove. Ladies, make some noise. Ladies, are you all enjoying this workout?